Okay.
One thing for anyone in the chat while we're changing over, please add any questions or comments to the chat feature, little button at the bottom. If you have anything we can help you with, please do. Thanks.
All right. Am I showing my screen?
You are. I can see
Okay.
it.
Perfect. So the second part of this Zoom is going to be about Google Drive. We thought it'd be helpful to show you some tips and tricks to organizing your Drive. Where many of you are getting lots of files coming in, and the question is, where do I put them and how can I clean up my Drive? So hopefully these tips will help you today. And if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the chat, and then the people monitoring that will let me know. So the first thing with Google Drive that I always suggest for teachers is, if we scroll down a little bit to where my Drive can get messy, is we get these random files, and it's like, what do we do with them? And so just adding a folder is always the first thing that can help. So to add a folder, you come to the top left-hand corner and you can click New, and I'm just gonna say add a folder, the top option, and I'm gonna just call this we'll call it my Zoom sample, and then I can hit create. And then once I have a folder created, these random things down here, maybe I wanna put them in a folder. If I come to the left-hand corner to where my Drive is, there's a little arrow you can click. I'm gonna open that, and it's gonna open up all my folders, and I'm gonna scroll down to, since it's a Zoom, it's gonna be towards the bottom, and you can actually drag and drop files from your Drive right into the folder. So if I came here and I wanted to put these pictures in my Zoom sample, I can just drag them right over. If you ever have to drag multiple ones, I can click on it and then hold my control button on my keyboard down, and I can click multiple ones. So maybe I want to take those 3 over, and then I can drag and drop them. Now I'm going to open my Zoom sample by double clicking that, and here's my files that I've put in so far. Another thing that's helpful is, once you make your main folder, is to start making subfolders. So I'm in my Drive under my Zoom sample. I can see where I'm at the top, and I'm going to go here to New. And anything I add right now will show up in my Zoom sample folder. So if you ever open a folder and then go add something to it, it will default into that folder. So I'm going to add a new folder. So I'm now creating a subfolder, and I might call this Images, hit create. And now that I have my subfolder, I can even drag and drop maybe these couple images right into that. So that's how you create a folder and a subfolder. Does anyone have any questions on that part? That's pretty common. Okay, now we're gonna start getting into some fun parts of organizing your Drive. So if I'm gonna come back out here to my Drive, and I wanna look at all my folders. I'm gonna come down to my Zoom sample. It's way at the bottom since it's the letter Z. So I'm going to click on this folder, and I'm going to do a right click. And if you're on a Chromebook, it's like your 2-finger tap. And I'm going to come here to change color. So with your folders, they're going to default that grayish color, but if you want to add color to them to help organize it, so you could organize it by content area or just however you decide to, I'm going to do maybe like a mint green on this. So now that folder is a mint green folder. So you can do this to any of your folders. I can come to my Wii video. I'm going to do a right click, change color. We're going to make this a blue, and you can color code them that way. I like the color coding because it's nice when I kind of scroll up and down. The ones that I've color coded really stand out quickly to me, and they're a file that maybe I need to find easily. So I'm going to come back down to my Zoom file. The next thing I want to show you that you can do is you can add a star to a folder or a file. So this Zoom sample, if I want this to be a folder I find easily, I'm going to do a right click, and I'm going to come here and add to starred. So if I click add to starred, let's see where this adds it. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to close my drive so you can see. So you have your priority, my drive, my shared drive, and then if you come down here, there's a starred section. And I use this for any files that I'm going to come to often, or for the time being I might need to get to quickly. So I'm going to click here, and it will have all my folders that I've starred, and here's my Zoom sample. And then below this, these are just files that I've starred throughout this year as files that maybe I've needed to. One thing I would suggest doing with your starred file is, when I looked at mine today, I realized there were some on here that maybe I don't need starred anymore. So if you come and you realize, oh, that's maybe an old file, you can right click on it and you can come down here to, why am I not seeing it? Oh, remove from starred, and now that will take it out. So this could be a good time to also, if you've been using your starred folder, to also clean it up. The next thing I want to show you is actually something I highly suggest doing and is very helpful. As you look at my drive, you might notice I've got my color code going on for my different schools and different files I need to access. But I've also added a few different things, and I want to talk to you about them. You can add emojis, you can add icons, you can add numbers, and you can add like special symbols or characters to a folder. And what I like about this, it will actually prioritize those files so they show up first in your drive. So if you look up here, these are in alphabetical order down here with the ones with my emojis on them, but they're prioritized above the other ones in alphabetical order. So I want to show you how to make, let's look at the emoji one first. Oh, I forgot to actually mention, I have a Google Doc we're going to share with you. I'll have Miles put it in the chat. Let me show you what it looks like before we go to this next section. I've got this Google Drive, and it actually has everything I'm showing you now. It will be in here. But the reason I really wanted to show you it now is under the emoji and icon section, I have some websites that I found that you can go to find emojis easily and copy them and add to your drive. So that's where I'm actually getting one of these from. The one we're going to use today is called copy paste emoji. It's this fourth one down. So I'm going to click on that one. So what you can do is you can come here and you can search for a specific emoji. Let's see. Okay, so if I come down here and I can kind of look for one I want. For my sample one, I'm going to do this star. So I'm going to click on this star. And actually, I think you can just right click, copy. Sorry, this menu's in the way. Give me 1 sec to move some stuff. There we go. Okay, so if I come here, I'm going to do copy this. Sorry, I did this one earlier. Let's go to this other one I was using. Okay, this one's emoji. So if I click on this, okay, so on this site, if you click on it, in the bottom, it will copy it. So I actually don't want those ones. I'm going to backspace. Let's do this wink one. I'm going to come here and then I'm going to hit copy. Now I can go back to my Google Drive once I find the emoji I want and go to the folder I want. So I'm going to come down to my Zoom folder that's way at the bottom, and I don't want to have to always come down to it here. I'm going to do a right click on it and I'm going to do a rename. And then in front of the Zoom sample, I'm going to put my cursor, and then I'm going to do a Control V for paste. And then I'm going to hit OK. Now what should happen, and it already did it, is it moved this Zoom folder from the bottom way up to the top right under my Maple Ridge. Now what I've noticed about when I added emoji, it does prioritize it, but there have been times that when I've done it on my phone that this section with the emojis actually shows up on the bottom. after all my other files, and that's been a little frustrating. And so I've started playing around with some other options to prioritize, and I've actually found numbers and like using a hashtag will default it always to the top. So if I change my Zoom sample, let's try it with a number. I'm going to come here to rename, and I'm going to take out that emoji. I'm going to put a number 1. Let's see what happens. Oh, it actually stayed there. So let's try something else. So that didn't prioritize it anymore. Let's try something else like a @ sign. Let's see what that does for us. And now that moved it to the top. So you may want to play around to see what works best for you, but I have found that the emojis does show up first here, but in other cases I have seen them at the bottom. But whenever I've used the @ sign or the hashtag, that always puts them at top. So that's a good feature to add to your folders. And I've even done it where, like right now, we're using this at home learning folder a lot with our team. After, you know, maybe next school year, when this folder isn't a priority anymore, we'll probably take the hashtag off of that because it's not one that we need to show up right away anymore. So feel free to always be changing your folders to make them work best for you. The next thing I want to show you is I want to talk about your shared drive and shared with me. Sometimes what happens is you get files from people, and we do this all the time. We'll share things, and it's like, okay, so where is that file? How do I find it? And then I'm going to my shared drive and I'm searching for it. But if you ever have a file like, let me show you this, like this build a snowman. I'm not the owner of this file. Someone else actually Miles shared this with me. And it's actually in a shared folder that I have to go find it, or I have to search it every time. But if this is a file that I know I want to organize within my drive, if you open it, you'll see this symbol, this icon that says add to my drive. And what this will do for you, I'm going to click organize, is it will take this, even though Miles is the owner, it will not make a copy, but it will add it to my drive so I can find it. It'll create like a shortcut essentially. And then I can decide where I want to put this. So I might move this. I'm going to go to my Zoom. Oh, and my Zoom will be at the top. Perfect. So I'm going to add it to my Zoom folder, and then I'm going to click move. And so now it's going to move it into there for me to find easier. And I was able to organize that. The other way you can do this, let me see. There we go. If I am in my drive, and I'm gonna go to the shared with me, and I'm going to find a file here. You can do it this way too. So if I go to this digital storytelling, and if there's a resource, so this digital storytelling, if I want to add this to my drive, I can just do a right click on it, and then it says add shortcut to drive. So it's doing that same thing. So I can click that here, and it will ask me where I want to put it. So I'm going to move it, and I'm going to put it in my Zoom. And then I'll click add shortcut. So now if I go to my Zoom file, we'll go back to my drive, Zoom samples at the top. I will see I've got my digital storytelling and I've got my build a snowman that I just added here. So if you're ever feeling overwhelmed with everything that's in the shared files and you want to organize them in your own drive, this is a great tip to do that. And then the last thing I want to talk to you about is actually one of my new favorite things. Is you've probably noticed your priority inbox. So if I click on this, within Google Drive, it's taking files and that they feel are like Google feels are important to you, and they're putting them here. I'm actually not as familiar with the priority, like if there's a way that you can adjust it. From what I understand, it's just Google will put things up there that it feels like is a priority to you. So if anyone on my team has a better answer for that, I'll let you explain that in a moment. But what I really want to talk about is workspaces, and it's under your priority section. Workspaces allows you to create a collection of files in one place. Um, this is really great when you're doing like a short-term like project. So if you were working with your team and they had files in their drive that maybe they've shared with you, and then you have files with your own drive, but it's not all organized together, and you're trying to think, how am I going to find all these when I need them? You can create a workspace. So if I come here to create workspace, I'm going to actually type in Zoom, and what's going to happen is it's probably, as soon as I hit create, my Google Drive's going to try to find anything that has maybe the word Zoom in it to see if those are like files that I want in it. So I'm going to click Zoom and let's see what happens. So it's okay. So what it's doing is it's running through my files and saying, are these any that you want in your Zoom? And I'm going to select all the ones I want. And then I'm going to add selected files. And then it even has some more suggestions that might show up here that you can add. If you don't find the files you want, you can always just go to your drive and add them. So I can come here and I can go to my recent and see if there's any other Zoom files I want in here. There we go. So if these files. What I like about this is it's not taking the files and moving them from any of the locations. All it's doing is, it reminds me of almost a sticky note that it's making with all these files that you want to be able to come back and access. So who's ever the owner of this file, it will still stay in his file or her file. And if you are, if you're the owner of the file, it'll still stay in that location, putting them kind of in on a virtual sticky note so you can find these files easily. And it can pull from the shared drives, shared with me, or your personal drives. And then once you're done, you can click done right there. And if I come down, here's my Zoom workspace. Something that you might have noticed, I'm going to go to view, is you only have a 25 file limit, which actually is a ton of files. And if you're really putting that many files in one spot, you probably would want a second workspace, because that's quite a bit. But yeah, the workspaces have been super helpful. If you look, I've used it for like the schools I visit. I have them all right here. So instead of having to go to my bookmark all the time and find them, I can come here and then I can just open all these easily. As I work with teachers, I actually make a workspace for each teacher that I'm working with and any files that go along with it. So when I go meet with that teacher, I can easily find them. I see this being useful on a team as you're collaborating on maybe a concept you have coming up. As each of you are creating different parts, I would add them within your workspace so you can easily find them. Does anyone have any questions? Let me get back here.
Tim, if you're still there, we're still curious about your question. He asks, how do you get the preview to pop up?
Ooh, what do you?
I'm not sure, Tim, if you're around, if you can clarify that for us, because we're trying to find out, is that in Google Docs? Is that in
Okay,
Google
it was
Drive?
right back in Google Classroom. No, in your Drive.
Okay.
As she clicked or hovered over each file, you had on the far right a preview pop-up.
Oh, I did. Let's see.
My screen doesn't do that, and I have to keep opening them to find out where I want to stick it.
Okay,
How do you get that? See, it's popping up on the right, or is
right here.
yeah?
Okay, so I'm going to X out. I don't know. Let's find out how I did that. Is it this
That's what
eye right
mine looks
here?
like.
Okay,
There you go.
it's this eye, it looks like. Do you
Oh, I
notice
like
that,
it.
Tim?
Okay.
Yeah. So this is showing your details. And you know, I think I don't ever shut mine, but yeah, it looks like you can just turn it on and off through the eye.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions, Tim, or was that?
Another thing you can do is to look at the different view. Did you?
No,
look?
you want to show?
Yeah, go ahead and click up here right under the eye, right next to the eye.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't show your folders, but if you scroll down, it'll show your documents. It doesn't
Let's
change your folder
come.
view, but it'll give you like a tile view of your
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was
document.
oh, that's a great
Yeah.
point. Yes.
That's another way to do it. So you can change your view.
So change your view from the settings.
Yeah,
No, it's
so
right here, right next to the eye. I'll let Heather
Okay.
talk about
yeah,
yeah.
so Tim, right? Yep. What Pam was saying is, so I usually keep mine on the list view because I want to see lots of things at once. But what Pam was saying is there's a grid view right next to the eye. If I click it, it will make it so it gives you that preview on those documents if I scroll back down, which could be really helpful when you're trying to find a specific document.
Yeah. Okay. That is helpful. Now, how do I? Yours is yours is a slight column. Mine takes half the page. I. Is there a way
Come
to
to the eye.
lower it?
So say that again, Tim. What's yours doing?
Oh, I'm pointing at the screen, but you can't see where I'm pointing. You have when I click on it, the eye it pops up, but it doesn't make it. It takes up half my screen to do it.
Click
Oh,
on activity, Heather. Are you clicking activity or details? No.
I wonder if it's right here.
Should we have Tim share his so we can see it?
Yeah, let me unshare my screen. Just give me one sec. Let me
Well, my
stop.
screen, the screen, I'm listening to you on a Chromebook and I'm playing on my desktop, so
Oh, I see.
you won't be able to see my screen. Sorry.
Okay.
I'll play with it. At least I can click onto that eye and kind of hover over the documents to see what they really are.
I wondered if,
Quick idea.
yeah, does anyone else have an idea of what's going on? Or
I
how
do.
Do you want, who's talking,
That's
Charles?
Charles. Yeah.
I'll stop sharing. Do you want me to, do you want to
No,
jump
it's
on?
okay. I was just saying, check your Zoom settings. If you use the Control plus or we'll make it
Oh, there we
zoom
go.
in and Control minus. I think
You
that
got
could
it.
be
You
that
have
could be
it. That's it.
that's it.
That's
Okay.
it? Oh, good.
My blind eyes, my old
No,
eyes.
no, you're good. That's why
Okay.
there's multiple of us.
That's great. I like it. Okay.
Any other
Thank you.
questions?
Nope, I'm good.
Awesome, Tim.
I'm gonna
Thank you.
mute myself again.
Any other questions in our chat, guys?
Heather, if you want to answer this one's kind of a nice one to look at. What happens when a file is deleted in the Share with Me folder? Does it delete it only from their drive or does it delete it from everyone else's drive?
Pam, do you know on that one? Does it delete it from their drive as well?
Pam, you're muted.
Your wish came true. Can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, it's what happens when a file is deleted in the Shared with Me folder? Does it only delete from that person's drive or does it delete it from everyone else's drive?
So they changed that. It used to delete it from everyone's drive, but now I know I was deleting some files this morning, and when I deleted them, I got a message at the bottom that those files would still be accessible to the collaborator.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they've changed that. We used to really caution everyone about deleting something with the Shared with Me. You can't delete it. No, it depends who owns it, right?
I was like,
That's what
I think
thought.
I've seen as the owner, if I delete it, as long as they've moved it from the Shared with Me into their own drive, then they keep a copy of it, I think. But if I'm the owner and it's still in their Shared with Me and I delete it, then they lose it too, is what I thought.
So that's another good argument for moving things from Shared with Me to the inbox, to your regular drive.
Mm-hmm.
That is good. Any other questions, Charles?
No, can I throw one comment in there or a little tip
definitely.
for those who are watching? One of the things I noticed in Heather's, when she was in the list view especially, and she was scrolling down, that it kind of hit a lag there for just a few seconds. And sometimes that'll get worse. I thought I had a virus on my computer, but then I realized I just had so many stinking folders and files in my drive. There you go. So you go down, but yours is kind of already, it's good. But when there's that slow time, you have so many folders, that will also slow things down. So what I did is I went through and I just made, again, like you did, the first tip, put everything into a folder. I even drug folders into other folders to kind of clean up all those, again, folders. And that really sped up the way my Google Drive opens up. And so it's a lot faster now.
That's a great tip. I'm glad to know about that. Does anyone else on my team have any good tips? Because I feel like this, organizing your drive, we all kind of do things a little bit differently, so it's good to get some tips from other people as well.
I'll throw one more out there because a teacher many years ago when I was in the classroom, she saw my Google Drive and says, "Really, Charles? Are you kidding me?" And it's like, "Why don't you clean that up?" And so one of my tips was I created a folder for each subject area, like math, reading, science for that grade level. And then within there, in that math, I put the different math standards, a folder for each math standard. And so that way it was really easy the following years. When I said, okay, here comes that next standard, I would just open up that one folder and then all my resources were in there. And it kept everything very nice and tidy.
That's awesome.
Something I also do to try to keep it clean is when I'm saving something to the drive, if it's not already in a folder, put it in the folder then. So create a folder, put it in its folder before you hit save. So it's in a place that you can search it versus in that huge list. And that helped me because I still have a whole bunch down below from the very first couple years that we started using Drive aren't anywhere, and I need to go clean that up. But everything else is in its place and I can find it.
Awesome.
I was thinking quickly, maybe show how you use Google File Stream with your Google Drive. Would that be
Oh,
a different topic? But if they just have something real quick why is Google File Stream so important?
okay. What do you think we have time, or do you think we should say that for another day?
It's up to you. Another day is fine too, but I think that would be, it's a way to organize your Google Drive as you're downloading stuff and putting it right into different folders.
Should we make a tutorial of that and put it on?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's a great idea. I think it's something that'd be really helpful for teachers right now.
I had to take a little break, but did you talk about that new Drive shortcut thing that's just started? Maybe we need to look at that.
Where you right click on something and say add shortcut to Drive.
Yeah, that's replacing, you can't put a file in multiple folders anymore. Did you go over that?
I did not. Do you want to talk about that? That's not something we talked about today, so you could talk about that.
It's just a way of adding a file to add a file to multiple folders. So we used to be able to do the Shift Z thing where you could just add it to a different folder. Anyway, we could also put a tutorial on that. So that just came out last week.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
We'll add we'll do a little tutorial on that. And
so we'll do a tutorial on that and a tutorial on file stream.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, if no one has any other tips or questions, we will wrap it up, and make sure you save the chat. We will also be saving it and adding it to our website for people to refer back to. Anything else, Greg?
I think that's it. I think we're good. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Join us. That was a good time. Thanks, Heather. Thanks, Pam. This will be on the website, and as soon as it uploads, we'll have this on our website and the chat as well. Okay, if you're coming back, we'll see you at 1 o'clock for our Newsella.
Did we answer Lisa's question here?
Doing it right now. Don't close the meeting yet.
Oh, what do you think? Better to do a team drive or shared files?
Ooh, Pam, you're the expert on this. What do you say?
I would say with your team, let me tell you that what happens sometimes with the shared drive, the shared folder. So it's either team drive. So this is what they used to be called. What they're called now is a shared folder or a shared drive. And we think that's stupid. Maybe they'll change them because they both have. So the shared drive is what used to be the team drive. Now it's called a shared drive. The part about the shared drive is it really protects anything from being deleted, but you lose ownership. You can't take it back out, and you can't add anything to it that somebody else owns. So even though you might have some things you wanted to share with your team, if you don't own it, you can't put it in there. That's one of the restrictions, because, and then you lose ownership to it because it belongs to that shared drive and to the team. So on the one hand, it protects it, but on the other, it's restrictive in that way too. So I would maybe use a shared folder unless it becomes a problem. And here's where it becomes a problem: if you have somebody going in and moving something out of, moving a drive out of it. Because if it's a shared folder and somebody moves a folder out of it, it moves it out for everybody. But everyone would have access to it. You can put permissions on the folder. I don't know. That's just my, what does the rest of the team think?
I'll throw one quick tip in there.
Yeah.
I had a teacher who, they had a team drive, a shared team drive, and it was taking her so much more time to load things into Google Classroom, a lot more clicks than her team. The team's like, what's going on? And the teacher was really frustrated. So I would say don't put things in that team drive unless you're not going to add on. Like, maybe it's things for like the team itself. If you're put things in Google Classroom, keep it to a shared folder with your team.
That's the thing. You can't even put a folder into a Google site or to Google Classroom. You can't share a whole folder from the team drive, but you can from a shared drive. So I would say start with a shared folder unless you run into some problems. If you have a rogue member of your team that's messing it up or something, then you might.
Don't pick on me, Pam.
You knew we were talking about you. Good question, though, Lisa. Good question.
Cool. All right. If that is it, we'll go ahead and close it up, and we'll see you guys at the next one.
Greg, you saved the chat.